So I want to thank Professor Diogo Eduardo for his opening remarks. They were very interesting and definitely a very good way to kickstart this webinar. My name is Untitled Chapter. I am a lawyer at PLMJ Law Firm. It's a Portuguese law firm. I work in the corporate and M&A practice, and I'm a proud member of Legal Hackers Lisbon. So I'm very proud to be here today to this webinar and to present the speakers. So first we will have an intervention by Mr. Thomas Eisermann, who is a research assistant at the Center, at Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance. He's in the center since 2018, and he focuses research on topics related to crypto assets and blockchain. And he will give us a presentation on the crypto assets benchmark study. So without further delay, I will give the floor to Mr. Thomas Eisermann from the Cambridge Center of Alternative Finance. Thank you very much.
Okay, first of all, hello everyone, and thank you very much to the Legal Hackers, the CIDP, and the School of the Law School of Lisbon University for organizing this event, as well as giving us the opportunity to present the key findings of the third global crypto asset benchmarking study. I already have been greatly introduced, so thank you for that. So let's move on to the outline of this presentation. So really briefly, I will give you an introduction of the methodology, then we'll go over the different sections and provide different key findings so that you know what we found in the study. So the data collection period for the study was between March and May 2020. And I'm just mentioning this because it's quite important for the context of the findings. And we surveyed 4 different market segments. So what you see here is you see that we focused on 4 different market segments. On one side, we disseminated a survey specifically for mining entities, of which we got 105 responses. And then we had a crypto asset service provider survey, which focused on payment, custody, and exchange. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the interesting parts. The first key finding of when looking at or analyzing the growth indicators of the crypto asset industry in 2020 was that full-time employee growth after a downturn of 57% in 2018 increased again or recovered with 21% according to our survey data. Also, industry-wide growth saw a decline of 36 percentage points, whereas the median firm showed a minus 75 percentage point decline. And what this indicated or suggested to us is that potentially a few large players dominate the industry. However, not all firms are equal. So what we saw is that 26% of the companies in that space or in the crypto asset space would classify as high growth companies. So that means that they have an annualized employment growth level above 10% over the past 3 years. Moving on to the mining section. So this is especially, I think, now quite an interesting topic. Is that 39% of the proof of work mining is powered by renewable energy and primarily hydroelectric energy. So this is what you can see here in the right-hand side of the chart. We also deployed an alternative estimate based on pool data. So we aggregated, so this is not based on the survey data, but on aggregated pool data that we received from mining pools that looks at the geolocation data of IP addresses. And we received or saw that 29%, and note here, it's Bitcoin's global hash rate originated from renewables. When looking at the financialization of the mining industry, we could see that miners start to facilitate more or make use of more complex financial products such as hash rate derivatives or crypto asset derivatives with 14 and 12% respectively. However, as the chart shows, the dominant strategy is still holding crypto asset reserves or holding fiat national currency reserves. And a brief note on government support. So 23 of miners actually received government support, but this is usually, so I believe 71% received that it was locally focused support. And if we look at the origin country of the miners receiving support, with 2/5, they usually were from China. So moving on to the off-chain story. So this section deals with in particular with the Cryptoassets Service Provider Survey. And what we can see in this chart here is that that fiat to crypto asset trades still both dominate both in terms of volume as well as number. And the interpretation or potential interpretation of this is that they act as gateway to the crypto asset ecosystem. And we also see that there's a difference in geographical location. So for instance, APAC has quite a significant share of crypto asset to crypto asset transactions. And if we ask our survey respondents, and we saw that a lot of them also have order books, suggesting again that potentially APAC in particular is used for trading. And a brief note on stablecoins. Stablecoins are becoming increasingly available. So we saw an increase of service providers supporting Tether grow from 4 to 32% from 2018 to 2020, and for non-Tether from 11 to 55. When looking at crypto asset users, we also provided an updated figure on this, and we saw in the third quarter of 2020, or our estimates suggested in the third quarter of 2020 that there were 101 user accounts with 191 user accounts with 101 total unique users, which again, compared to 2018 shows quite a significant increase. When we look at the customer base, at the customer base breakdown by type, we can also spot that it's mainly, first of all, mainly retail driven, or at least in 2020 when we collected the data from those service providers, that it was mainly retail driven. And that in particular, Europe as well as North America had a large share of institutional clients compared to other regions such as APAC or Latin American and Caribbean region. And when we look at those institutional clients, we can see that North American and European firms next to crypto asset hedge funds also focus more on traditional investors, whereas the Middle East and African focus more on online merchants, and APAC and APAC service providers focus or have a large share of miners, which again makes a lot of sense given that a lot of mining activity originates from that area. When looking at the regulatory and compliance sections, so this is potentially quite interesting for a lot of you, given the context, is that we found that 2 out of 5 surveyed firms are licensed or in the process of obtaining a license. These firms were primarily located in Europe. And important caveat here is that 58%, the remaining 58% should not be perceived as conducting unregulated activities or evading regulations, but often they do not operate or facilitate or their operations do not require an authorization process such as custodial functions, or they operate in jurisdictions where there's no clarity. And 45% of the surveyed custodial service providers only performed an externally led audit of their crypto asset reserves. And interestingly, this was a 24 percentage point decline compared to 2018. The share of crypto asset only companies that did not conduct a KYC check dropped from 48% to 13% between 2018 and 2020. And what most likely was cause for this is just an resulting from a progressive harmonization of KYC and AML across jurisdictions, such as initiated by the Financial Action Task Force. And one thing to note too is that given the while this trend seems to be true, there's no KYC or AML obligations that is heterogeneous across regions. When looking at IT security, we found that 90% of crypto asset funds are in cold storage from service providers. However, 46 of those service providers are not insured against any risk. And those that are insured are predominantly insured against cybercrimes, professional errors, hazards, and on expenditure in IT security by non-custodial service providers. For decoupling of duties such as between custodian, clearing, and settlement responsibilities appear in the industry. And 45% of service providers made use of third-party custody. And noteworthy here is that further that our survey data found that crypto asset service providers legally incorporated in jurisdiction or in a jurisdiction that is member of FATF are more likely to serve institutional clients, which again indicates that there's greater that this intervening between traditional finance and institutional adoption requires international standards. And lastly, and I haven't included it on the slide, but a lot of service providers indicated that DeFi will have a considerable impact on the business model over the next 12 months, which I think we all can agree on probably happened. And without further ado, I would pass back the virtual microphone to Anna. And thank you all very much for your attention.